Trump Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt hosted another White House press briefing today, and all I can say is yikes. We've officially reached North Korea and Putin-Russia level of media debasement. Really gross questions from sycophantic media and unhinged responses from Leavitt herself, although at one point she accidentally insults Trump, and that's pretty funny. But before we unpack all this, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, brace yourselves because this is an unprecedentedly creepy White House press briefing, starting with this question right here. And yes, this is real. This is not satire.
Consider releasing the president's fitness plan. He actually looks healthier than ever before, healthier than he did 8 years ago, and I'm sure everybody in this room could agree. Is he working out with Bobby Kennedy, and is he eating less McDonald's?
I can confirm the president is in very good shape, as you see, on a near daily basis here. And in that vein, thank God it's Friday. It's been a very long and busy week here at the White House. We will see you all on Monday, and we will release the results of that report as soon as we can. Have a great week.
So I wonder if even Leavitt herself is disgusted by that question. That person, by the way, apparently works for the MyPillow guy, Mike Lindell, is my understanding. But these are the sort of people that are being allowed into the White House press briefing room under the Trump administration. Sycophantic right-wingers like Marjorie Taylor's boyfriend, that lady, and others asking stupid, gross questions like that. This 78-year-old man's obviously at the peak of his physical health. He looks better than he did 8 years ago. He's super strong. He's probably a bodybuilder, and he probably bench pressed 450,000 pounds. And has he been working out with RFK Jr.? And, isn't he amazing? What's going on? Does he exfoliate? Because his orange hue is even more orange than ever. And it's I think everyone here would agree, super pathetic. That actually happened. That was not an SNL skit. Those are the sorts of questions that the White House prefers to hear in this day and age. Imagine if a reporter said something about President, Joe Biden at 81, he's actually, he's in better shape physically and mentally than he was at 61, at 41, at 21. What's he doing? Imagine the backlash that question would rightly receive, but that never happened. This shit, though, is real life under Trump. So here's another clip.
Massive undertaking, there's no doubt about it. We take it very seriously. The president is determined to renegotiate global trade on behalf of American workers. And again, you've seen people on both sides of the aisles calling for this for years, but I think no other president lacked the courage or maybe the work ethic or the stamina to take on such a task. And
I don't know if you saw that the reporter laughed because that was a Freudian slip. She's like, no other president lacked the work ethic and the stamina and the courage. She accidentally insulted her boss by saying that Donald Trump lacks courage and stamina and a work ethic. All of which is true. That's why I say it's not so much an insult as it is a Freudian slip, because she accidentally revealed the truth about a man that we all recognize, but she refuses to acknowledge in any other context. It just happened to slip out. So pretty funny stuff. Here's another clip.
Term. So trust in President Trump. He knows what he's doing. This is a proven economic formula.
What is he asking of Americans at this time? He talked about transition costs, transition problems. Is he asking something specific for Americans to do?
No, I think the president is asking for Americans trust in Trump, as I just said, trust in his economic agenda and formula. It's a proven formula that works. And by the way, clearly the American people do in fact trust him because they did just overwhelmingly elect him to this office.
That's a really stupid comment for a couple of reasons. Number one, he was not overwhelmingly elected. He won by a 1.5% margin. He didn't even win a majority of the votes. He simply won by a plurality. Number one. Number two, when he ran for office all three times, he lost the popular vote twice, again, so he's not particularly popular. We also know in the polls, he's historically unpopular, rivaled only by himself in his first term. He is unpopular to an earlier extent than any other president. President Biden, of course, became a very unpopular president, but he was above water, well above water, and his highs were always much higher than Donald Trump's, even now. And President Biden didn't start to lose popularity until September, his first September in his first term with the Afghanistan withdrawal. So Donald Trump is not only unpopular as a base default, but he has shed popularity much quicker than any of his predecessors. So again, just total bullshit. And of course, this idea that the American people must agree with everything he's done because, 6 months ago, they elected him. Well, shit's happened in the past 6 months, dumbass. This lady, I'm telling you, I don't think Karoline Leavitt is stupid. I think that her job requires her to do a hell of an impression of a deeply stupid person. I'm sure she has, I'm sure she's competent enough, but unfortunately, this is what you have to do to defend Donald Trump when the facts are against you. And again, note the cultishness of it. Like, again, this is why I say this press briefing is so damn creepy. Not just the questions that are being posed, like that first journalist, that first reporter who works for Mike Lindell, but even the answer. Oh, don't worry what the stock market says. Don't worry what the economists say. Don't worry what your 401k and your college funds look like. Don't worry about the consumer sentiment polls, which we'll probably do a video about. Just trust in Trump. Trust in Trump. Lady, this is not a religion. This is a secular government. We're talking about politics. And just say, just trust me, despite what the evidence says, that's not going to work with the American people. Even as ridiculous as the American people can sometimes be, and we are a deeply irrational electorate from time to time, even the American people, I think, by and large, won't buy that shit. Fingers crossed. Here's another clip.
Hey, why would any of our allies work with us to isolate China in a trade war if we're treating friend and foe alike?
You'll have to talk to our allies who are reaching out to us. The phones are ringing off of the hooks. They've made it very clear they need the United States of America. They need our markets. They need our consumer base. You saw Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the Oval Office with the president saying that he was going to bring down all of their monetary tariffs and their non-monetary.
What the hell is it? In so many ways, Israel is our closest ally anyway, and Israel is very dependent on the United States, so that shouldn't be a surprise at all, to say nothing of the close relationship that Netanyahu and Trump have. So I'm not sure you can use Netanyahu as a bellwether, number one. Number two, I'm sure we'd love to be talking to the countries that you say are calling you because the phone is ringing off the hook, but you won't release any information about it when you've been asked time and time again, okay, well, who's negotiating with us? You don't have to give us the exact terms, but who's actually reaching out? You're like, we're not going to tell you. Okay, well, then how can we believe you? How can we trust you? But again, they don't want to deal with these sorts of questions. Here's another clip.
Real quick, the president of El Salvador is coming to the White House on Monday. Does President Trump want him to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia with him?
The Supreme Court made their ruling last night very clear that it's the administration's responsibility to facilitate the return, not to effectuate the return. I believe the Department of Justice just filed another brief in the lower court. I would defer you to that for any updates. But as you mentioned, President Bukele will be here at the White House on Monday to talk about the cooperation that is at an all-time high. And we very much appreciate President Bukele and El Salvador's cooperation and the repatriation of El Salvadorian gang members who the previous administration allowed to infiltrate our country.
Yeah, so again, Bukele is a far-right authoritarian monster. I mean, a guy who's abused emergency powers and locked up, I think it was like 2% of his country, number one. Number two, again, the Trump administration took a pretty decisive defeat by a 9-0 decision by the Supreme Court. Even Alito and Thomas were like, yeah, this is a bit too far, and said that the administration has to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia. So I don't know why Trump, if he were acting in good faith, just wouldn't ask Bukele, well, just bring him along with you or fly a second plane with him back. But it's clear that the Trump administration is going to do everything in its power to try to resist this court order and perhaps even defy it outright. I wouldn't rule that out at all because it makes Trump look weaker if he has to obey the Supreme Court, especially after Karoline Leavitt and Donald Trump and so many others dug their heels in on this particular issue. So we'll see what happens. Here's another clip.
About tariffs. There have been big swings this week in the Treasury bond yields. There's a theory that it might be because of China dumping these as leverage, driving up costs for U.S. loans like mortgages. Does the White House have evidence that this is in fact a result of Chinese dumping? And if so, is there a message on that?
Not to my knowledge, but I would check in with the Treasury Department on that. I can tell you, I know our Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, is keeping a very close eye on the bond market. He spoke about it at the White House this week, and I know he's keeping his eyes on it day to day.
Yeah, because he's worried. He's nervous as shit. And the bond market is one of the major things which pushed Donald Trump to walk back his tariffs after insisting that he wouldn't. Again, he blinked, he folded, he capitulated, despite what Karoline Leavitt and the White House want you to believe. He just folded like a bitch. And here's the thing. It's so funny because people say, well, oh, so you wanted him to maintain his tariffs. No, he should have never started them in the first place. And I'm glad he walked them back. Right now, I would argue a 10% global tariff and a 145% tariff on China. The numbers are being crunched. This is still an incredibly disastrous policy and will still amount to an extraordinary tax on the American people. So even what Trump has left in place is really, really bad. But he should have never brought it in the first place. And recognizing that he should not have brought these tariffs in the first place and also mocking him for folding after he swore he wouldn't. These things are not mutually exclusive, and I can do both. I can simultaneously say, widespread sweeping tariffs are bad, global trade wars are bad, and still make fun of Trump for backing down when he swore that he wouldn't. I don't have to give him credit for, again, the metaphor being, Trump basically shit in the floor of his kitchen. Or what was the metaphor I used? I said that Trump could announce that he's going to shit his pants, waddle around for several days with his shit-filled pants, and then eventually, after saying that he would never do anything, he wasn't going to change his underwear at all, sheepishly reach for the toilet paper. I'm not going to give him credit for that. He's a 78-year-old man. He's the president of the United States, the most powerful man on earth. You're not going to get a gold star for making a terrible situation, which you single-handedly created, slightly less bad. No, I'm going to make fun of you for it, and you deserve it. One last clip.
Why is he optimistic that China's going to make a deal or wants to make a deal if they're not talking? Where's that optimism come from?
He's optimistic.
What? Sure. Okay. She asked why. Why is he optimistic? What is the basis for his optimism when all the evidence sits to the contrary? He is optimistic. What a non-answer. Imagine again if Jen Psaki or Karine Jean-Pierre answered a question as horribly as that they would be excoriated by mainstream and right-wing media. But again, this is the position that Karoline Leavitt finds herself in because the facts sit so squarely in opposition to her boss, and to the Trump administration writ large. Anyway, that was an unusually creepy White House press briefing from an unusually creepy and cultish administration. And again, we're still less than 3 months in. I can't imagine what it's going to look like 3 months from now. But in the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.